Hi, this is Andrea Hendricks. I want to go through working some problems from your homework exercises in section 1.3. And these are exercises, again, from the book. And if you want to follow along, these are on page 33 in your book. Some of these images didn't show up very large, so it may be easier for you to look there to see what's going on. Okay, so these first sets of exercises are to work the problem related to linear functions. 3 parts to do: to evaluate some functions at 2 different points, find the zero of the function, and graph it, and how can the graph be used to determine the zero. So let's just do one of these. Let's say number 3, for instance. Is f of x is equal to 2 minus 1/2 x. And we need to find f of negative 2. So f of negative 2 is 2 minus 1/2 times negative 2, which is really 2 plus 1, or 3. F of 4 would be 2 minus 1/2 times 4, which would be 2 minus 2, or 0. Now remember, when you evaluate a function, you're actually getting an ordered pair on the graph. We're getting the points negative 2, 3, and also the points 4, 0. Now then part B says to find the zero of f. So this is part A. Part B, to find the zero, well, remember the zero is the value of x that makes y 0. So we're really trying to find where is y equal to 0. And f of x is our expression for y, so we're saying where is 0 equal to 2 minus 1/2 x. Now if you don't like that 1/2, you can multiply everything through by 2 to get 0 equals 4 minus x. And then we can add x to both sides to get x is equal to 4. So the zero of our function is 4. Now it says to graph f, and how can the graph be used to determine the zero? Well, to graph it, we can plot these 2 points, negative 2, 3, and 4, 0. So negative 2, 3, and 4, 0. Here's our graph. Again, hopefully it goes through that point. How can the graph be used to determine the zero? Well, the zero is where it crosses the x-axis. Graph each linear function by hand. Give the x-intercept, y-intercept, domain, range, and slope. So let's look at number 18. Y is equal to 4/3 x minus 3. To find the x-intercept, we're letting y equals 0. So we're saying where 0 is equal to 4/3 x minus 3. We can multiply everything through by 3 if you don't like that fraction. So that would give us 0 is equal to 3 times 4/3 is 4x minus 9. So we can add 9 to both sides to get 9 equals 4x, so divide by 4. So that gives us 9/4. So the x-intercept is 9/4, 0. Now the y-intercept, you can actually do this from the function itself, right? Or you can replace x with 0. We would have 4/3 times 0 minus 3, which is just simply, because that's 0, minus 3. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 3. The domain of this function is negative infinity to infinity, right? Because there's no restrictions on what x can be. If we look at the graph, it extends indefinitely from the left to the right. Same thing with the range. It extends indefinitely from the left to the right. I'm sorry, not left to right, bottom up. And the slope of the line, well, we don't have to do any work. The slope is the coefficient of x, which is 4/3. Okay. Now we need to graph each line by hand. Also give the x-intercept, y-intercept, domain, range, and slope. So, like number 24 is f of x equals 5. Well, that's really y equals 5. Well, that's a horizontal line, right, that crosses at 5. Well, pretend that's 5. I did that at 4. We'll draw another mark there. What's the x-intercept? Well, there is no x-intercept because it doesn't cross the x-axis. The y-intercept is the point 0.05. Domain, it extends indefinitely from left to right, so that's negative infinity to infinity. The range is just simply the 5, right? It doesn't go indefinitely from bottom up. It's just 5. And the slope, well, the slope of a horizontal line, remember, is 0. We can do one more like number 28. X equals negative 3. Remember, that's a graph of a vertical line. So the x-intercept is negative 3, 0. The y-intercept is none. What's the domain? Well, the domain, it doesn't extend indefinitely from left to right. It only goes through this value of 3. So the domain is a set consisting of negative 3. My range is, it goes indefinitely from bottom up. So it's negative infinity to infinity. And the slope of this line, of a vertical line, is undefined. Remember your UV and horizontal with Z and 0. Give the equation of the line. Well, these are just special cases. These are horizontal and vertical lines. So in number 30, a vertical line is always x equals the x value, which is 4. Horizontal is y equals the y value, which is 3. Now this is horizontal. What y value is it going through? It is 0. And a vertical is going through x equals 0. You think of it as whichever line it crosses, whichever axis it crosses is a variable that has to be included in the equation. Now, graph on the calculator, I'm going to do that in another video altogether. Find the slope of the line that passes through the 2 points. Well, these are pretty straightforward, right? Let me do one that's a little bit more involved, which is number 45, because you have the fractions there. So I would have to do, well, you know what? That's not even that involved, because when I do 9 minus 9 over 1/2 minus 2/3, it doesn't matter what the denominator is, because 0 divided by anything is 0. Okay, so maybe we'll do like number 42. 0 minus negative 3 over 5 minus negative 4 would be 0 plus 3 is 3 over 5 plus 4, which is 9. So that can reduce down to 1/3. Match the equation with the graph. The things that you're really looking for here is the slope and the y-intercept, and also those special cases. Slope tells you which way it's slanted. If it's a positive slope, it's slanting up. If it's a negative slope, it's slanting down. If it's a slope of 0, it's horizontal. If it's an undefined slope, it is vertical. And remember, the y-intercept is the value of b. So like 3x plus 6 has a y-intercept of 0, 6. The slope is 3, which means it's a positive slope. So the line's increasing, going through a positive 6. So the only one that's increasing, going through a positive y value, right, that's going through a negative y value, going through 0. So this has to be the value or graph of A. Like for instance, number 49, y is equal to negative 3x minus 6. So the y-intercept is negative, and the slope is negative, so it's the line that's going down, and it's crossing the y-axis in a negative value. So the only one doing that is C. What about 52? Y is equal to negative 3x. Well, what's the y-intercept that is understood to be 0? So that means it's crossing at the origin and a negative slope. So the one going through the origin with a negative slope is G. 54, y equals negative 3. That's the case of a horizontal line crossing at negative 3, which would be E. Oops, let me pause this. Okay, it is the day for interruptions here, but I'm back on target now. Let's see, I think I covered everything that I wanted to on that page. So the slope and the y-intercept will help you determine which graph that you need to match to. Now this one is a graph of a linear function is shown. Identify the slope, the y-intercept, x-intercept, and write a formula for f. And it says also to estimate the zero of the function f. Now these are the problems that whenever I copied from the book, the grid did not show up, so I'm going to also need to refer to the book as I go through these so that you can get a feel for how to do this. And let's look at just number 56 for instance. It is crossing, if you look in your book at this 0, -1 is one of the points on the graph. Another point on the graph is the point 1, 1. Okay, so that should give us everything that we need to do. So to identify the slope, I can either plug into the formula and do like -1 minus 1 over 0 minus 1, which is -2 over -1 or 2, or you can count, right, go rise 2 over 1, 2 over 1 would be the slope. Now the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, which is at the point 0, -1. The x-intercept, we're going to have to estimate here. It looks kind of like 1/2, so the x-intercept would be 1/2, 0. Write a formula for f. Well, we know everything we need to write the formula. We know the slope and the value of b, so f of x is equal to mx, or 2x, plus b, which is -1. Estimate the 0. The 0 is the x value of the x-intercept, which is 1/2. Here is the function given in terms of the ordered pairs. Find the slope, use the table to find the y-intercept, and give the equation. So like number 61, our y-intercept is the easiest thing to find. Y-intercept is 0, 2. So that tells me the value of b is 2. To find the slope, I can use those last 2 points to do the change in y, 6 minus 2 over 1 minus 0. Which is 4 over 1 or 4. So my function f of x is equal to mx, 4x, plus 2. Sketch my graph, or by hand, the graph of the line. So let's just say, look at number 72, if it wants to go through -2, -3, with a slope of -3/4, I would plot my -2, -3, -2, -3, and I'm going to be in trouble here because my slope is -3/4, which means I need to do what? Down 3 and right 4. So from this -2, -3, I've got to go down 3, so down 1, 2, 3 over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the graph of my line. Now, you can also think about the next point, change in y over change in x. So I have to go down 3 from the y and right 4. So if you do that computation, that takes you to another point, which is 2, -6. Since it said to label the points, we need to do that. Now let's do one more, like number 77. Says through -3, 0. With undefined slope. Okay, remember our UV, this is a vertical line through -3, 0. So to label 2 points on the graph, -3, 0, and then -3, 2. Whatever other point beginning with the x value of -3 is fine. Now, looking at some of these applications for modeling, we'll do number 79, I guess. The graph gives the number of gallons of water in a small swimming pool after X hours. Write a formula for F. Interpret both the slope and the y-intercept. So let's stop right there and write a formula. We know the y-intercept is 2,000. So that tells me the value of B is 2,000. To find M, you may need to refer to your book because in your book there's a point here for 4,000. And if this is 0, 2,000, to find our slope, we need to do 4,000 minus 2,000 over 4 minus 0, which is what, 2,000 over 4, which is 500. Oh, not 5,000, 500. So our equation is f of x is equal to m, which is 500x, plus 2,000. Now interpret both the slope and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept interpretation means that it says give the number of gallons of water in a small swimming pool after x hours. So y-intercept has an x value of 0, so it means the swimming pool has 2,000 gallons of water initially. Now the slope means what? That means how it's changing over time. So 500 is really 500 over 1. So that means that the water is increasing, or I should say not water, but the pool is increasing by 500 gallons per hour. Okay. Use a graph to estimate how much water was in the pool after 7 hours. Now, to use a graph, I would have to look for 7 hours and then go up to the graph to see how many or where that intersects the graph. And it looks like to be about 5,000, no, 5,500 maybe. Now use a formula to verify it, so I could plug in 7 to find f of 7, which would be 500 times 7 plus the 2,000, which is 3,500 plus 2,000, which would be 5,500. Okay, so that gives you a different variety of problems that are worked from this section. Please review these, and if you have any questions, contact me. Thank you.